So one of the last things I've got to do before rego is to have the foam mattresses put there and there, and obviously the main bedroom. So I've already got a mattress that I'm going to cut up, and so this video is really about how I measure and then cut using an electric knife the foam to size. So this is the first time I'm going to be doing this, and it's probably not that technically difficult. Just got to have an electric knife and measure it and see how we go. I mean, they're pretty cheap foam mattresses, so obviously I'm going to try to avoid stuffing it up, but we'll get on with it. So I'm going to now measure, using a tape measure, the length and the width. So obviously the top bunk is actually slightly narrower than the bottom one, so I'll just measure that. So in this case it's about 66, so I'm not taking it right to the edge, and the bottom one will be about 73. So 66 and 73. 66, 73, and in terms of length, they're about the same as well. Both of them are the same size, and I'll just say it's about 162. 162. Right, so now I'll prepare the foam mattress, and I'll explain how I'm going to cut that. So I've effectively put the foam mattress on my outdoor setting. I cleaned the top of it. I'm using a couple of outdoor chairs to support the ends of it. So what I need is straight edge, a Sharpie, and of course my tape measure, and the electric knife. Okay, twin blade jobby. This has turned out a little bit more interesting. I tried to measure from the corners, but you can see here how it's rounded, and it's certainly not perfect. So as you come here, round it again. So I'm going to have to do multiple cuts. So I've measured one end, I've measured the other end, and I've also, looking online because I'm hopeless with math, I also calculated the diagonal length to make sure that we're pretty square between the two. And now I've got the center line where I need to cut the two halves. So that's it, it's all measured out. The interesting bit's going to be to make sure that when I'm cutting it, that I've actually got the blade straight and not in an angle where it's going to end up being, you know, looking a bit dodgy. So, and because it's such a long cut, I don't think I'm going to get it perfect, but we're going to put a cover on it. Obviously it's not going to remain like this without a cover, so that should cover some of it, pardon the pun. And right, so I'm going to hook up the electric knife and probably cut this first bit here all along. Right, so here's the tool. You can see how it works, the two blades. What I've done here is to ensure that whatever's underneath it isn't going to be collected with the blade as I cut, as you can see there. And so I just do a bit of a cut here so you can see what it looks like. Now I can see what it looks like. I'm just going to position it like that, make sure that it's straight, and just do a bit of a cut. As I said, I don't expect this to be clean, but anyway. Oh, yes, it's cutting like butter. Look at that. Easy, hardly have to put any pressure in it. And you can see, excuse the light on the camera, but you can see that that's actually quite a nice clean cut there. Not bad. So now the trick is, for me, making sure you don't get any cables in the way or anything like that. I'm just struggling with that at the moment. So now that I've got that initial bit cut, I'm going to have to continue cutting it this way all along until, and making sure that it's straight until it's done. I might actually get someone to hold the camera for me while I do this so you can see what's going on. So you can see it's quite easy to cut. Don't have to put any pressure on the foam at all. Just make sure that you've got it straight. So nice smooth cuts. As I said, you're not going to get it. I'm not going to get it perfect because obviously I'm doing it by hand, but so what I find easy is if I'm looking straight down, I can see whether or not I've got that straight or not, and follow the line. Go nice and slow, take your time. And right at the end, take it easy, so that way you're not forcing the foam in when you're cutting it. Right, so imperfections, as I said, you're going to get that, but overall it's quite smooth. What I tried to do is I tried to fix this area here, and you can see how trying to go over it to fix higher spots or so on is not a good idea. The knife seems to just start to carve rather than cut. So, bit of a tip there. If you've got an imperfection, try to avoid cutting it, because what happened here was I had a little bit of a bow. Remember that initial cut? And I was trying to take that bow off and the extra bit off, and obviously not good. However, here you go. The rest of it's quite smooth, and you can see from a top view, more than happy with that, because the cover's going to go on it. And this is why I wanted to cut the end bit, because you can see it was, as I said earlier on, it was quite bowed, and especially on this end, very different. So I'm just going to now flip the mattress around so I can cut the other side. And as you saw beforehand, as I was cutting it, I was actually standing above it. This will give you kind of a view, standing above it and then cutting it nicely that way so you can follow the line. Right, I'll flip this around. Right, once again, this one we've got more overhang, and so this is more of a risk of the cut being messy. So looking again underneath, I've got a couple of chairs to support the overhang, and I'm trying to put the line kind of close to the table ledge as possible without obviously striking it, so that if I'm putting a bit of pressure on that now, I can feel that it's got adequate support there. So the other edge is cut, and unfortunately I'm not as happy with that side, but it's still okay. I found that if you can try to do a cut without stopping or without moving your body, that's going to yield better results. What ended up happening was, because these seats were facing out, when I was cutting, I had to actually position myself again around the seats, and that caused the blade to move. And so I've got little like high spots here where I actually had to move. So anyway, it's a tip for you. This one's going to be interesting because I've really got nowhere to go. I'm going to have to cut with this, the thinner piece of the foam. I'm going to have to cut through at this angle and try to, well, I could probably start from the edge here and just lean on and cut to a certain point and then go the other way and then cut and meet in the middle. And of course that's going to be tricky, because where I meet in the middle is going to be the problem. So either way, it's going to be a little bit difficult. As suspected, I've started from this end and I've worked my way up and started getting a little bit rougher here, and I got to, lo and behold, this point. Once I got to that point, I had to start on this end, and of course, as I suspected, the blade didn't quite meet. You can see there. So I'm just going to have to trim that and try to get it as clean as possible. Right, I'll show you what it looks like and how the material reacts to if you try to skim it. Right, so I've tried to do this one here, and as you can see, it looks quite nasty, but at least it's starting to get clearer. But if I do it here, you see what I mean. I'm going to try to, I have to face the right way so I can cut it correctly. So what I'm going to do here is try to get rid of that lip. And you can see there how it's starting to leave the teeth marks. Completely opposite to when you're cutting it initially. Okay, so that's what to look out for. So whilst yes, you can slice it away quite nicely, you will get that imperfection there. But as I said, the aim is to get it smooth, so when you've got the cover over it, you're not gonna see it anyway. So that's what I'll do now. I'll dress it all up. Right, so I brought him into the van. I've tried to trim as much of the edges as possible, as I said beforehand, to try to clean it up, try to get rid of the imperfect cuts. But anyway, it's done. Now one side is thicker than the other, so this one here will be on the top here, and I'll just put them in position. And straight away I can see, oh, that's all right, that's not a problem. I was going to say here, but actually that's probably a good idea. That'll keep it in place. So from the back here, you can see it's nice, and again, good cut there. Actually, that's quite surprisingly good. Usually somehow stuff cuts up when I'm doing these things, but anyway. And this one here on the edge, and that one on the edge there, and it's looking more like a Caravan now. So that will now be, and I've mentioned it a number of times, but now that we've got that cut, next thing is to get the materials and put a cover on it. It'll be just a white cover, and the same will apply for the mattress on the bed here. This one will have to be cut as well, because the width here is only 120, and so there's no mattresses of 120. Plus the other thing too is I'll need to get a larger mattress because of the length. I need the full 2 meter length, being 6'3". So that'll be there. I'm not going to do a video on cutting this one up and so on. What I might do is, once it's all covered, I'll do an internal video again on with the lot. So with the new bunk mattress, foam and covers, and mattresses with the covers, and that should be the end of that. Okay, so as always, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos and so on, please subscribe. Cheers.